Alas, my boy, said he, human knowledge is confined within the very narrow limits. And when I have taught you mathematics, physics, history, and the 3 or 4 modern languages with which I am acquainted, you will know as much as I do myself. Now, it will scarcely require 2 years for me to communicate to you the stock of learning I possess. 2 years! Exclaimed Dante. Do you really believe I can acquire all these things in so short a time? Not their application, certainly, but their principles you may. To learn is not to know. There are the learners and the learned. Memory makes the one, philosophy the other. But cannot one learn philosophy? Philosophy cannot be taught. It is the application of the sciences to truth. It is like the golden cloud in which the Messiah went up into heaven. Well then, said Dante, what shall you teach me first? I am in a hurry to begin. I want to learn. Everything, said the abbé. And that very evening the prisoner sketched a plan of education to be entered upon the following day. Dante possessed a prodigious memory, combined with an astonishing quickness and readiness of conception. The mathematical turn of his mind rendered him apt at all kinds of calculation, while his naturally poetical feelings threw a light and pleasing veil over the dry reality of arithmetical computation or the rigid severity of geometry. He already knew Italian, and had also picked up a little bit of the Romaic dialect during his voyages to the East, and by the aid of these 2 languages he easily comprehended the construction of all the others, so that at the end of 6 months he began to speak Spanish, English, and German. Okay, we are speeding through time here already. Once again, we spent about a month of this show stuck in the single day that the abbé and Dante were occupying, and now 6 months have gone by, and Dante is learning at a rapid pace. Turns out I don't want to say savant, but definitely quick to pick up on these things. I guess how would you know unless you ever are really put to the test and taught how to learn? Boy, oh boy, I have some capital B, capital F, big feelings about institutions not providing the right circumstances and atmosphere in which learners who aren't, say, typical to the system are supported in their learning journeys. I sucked in high school. I was not a good high school student at all. And in fact, I know we're reading here, and this is kind of a literary book podcast. Big admission, I didn't really start reading in earnest until about 10 years ago. So I was in my 30s when I really sunk my teeth into reading books and learning and having all these concepts. And to be honest, maybe that's why I relate to Dante so much, because until my mid-30s, I feel unformed as a human person. Once I started reading and once I started appreciating different types of films, which I certainly did much earlier than I read, new ideas started to creep in, and I felt like I was becoming, I don't want to say someone new, I just was becoming someone. In a lot of ways, I don't feel like I existed before then. And isn't that kind of what we've been talking about with Dante through all of this? I will say, though, I do not have a brain for any kind of math or languages, as is evidenced by this show. If you notice what I choose to publish, you can't even imagine what I have edited out of the main episodes. Anytime I have to speak and pronounce in a different language, it is just 18 different takes until I get it right. But there's one thing I want to highlight here, because I do feel like it's important and does kind of relate to my personal experience here. It's that the abbé is differentiating between knowledge and truth. Basically, you can know the facts, but understanding them is different. Basically the difference between learning the things and understanding the things philosophically. And that's something that is interesting. And he says that you can't teach that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I can speak to my experience in that I didn't understand half of the things that were being presented to me in school, but I had a better understanding of how they were applied in the real world. This is called epistemology. So I would, even though I didn't know things, I basically didn't know anything. I did go through the world trying to understand what things were for. And without someone, I guess, showing me the application of mathematics, like I might have been seeing it, but not understanding the meaning behind it because I didn't see the mechanics of it. I do think they go hand in hand, whether you can teach both or not, as Abe's saying. Like, the real world application of mathematics to me was tipping, when you go out to eat. And what's odd is, even to this day, I suck at math. I'm just so numbers dyslexic. I don't know if that's a real thing, but if it is, I certainly have it, where whenever I'm presented a number, I can't hold it in my head. I swap numbers around. I don't know what the number means. However, you put a bill in front of me, I could tell you the tip just by looking at it. I don't need to sit there and do math. I don't need to do mental calculations. I can look at it and I could tell you exactly what amount of tip to put down on a $20 bill. It's $4. But anyway, enough about me. Getting back to this passage, there's one last thing I wanted to just kind of highlight, in that when the Abbé is talking about philosophy, he calls it the golden cloud. He brings in this allegory of basically talking about philosophy as the thing of transcendence to the heavens, which is interesting, and I think it highlights a bit of his character more. Like, we've seen him so mathematical, so logical up to this point, but really, he values philosophy above all other things. That is what he strives for, beyond just understanding the equations of things. It's what those equations mean. Also, I don't know if it's important to just earmark the fact that Dante is learning all these new languages, turning into a bit of a polyglot. I'm assuming that's going to come into play later, but TBD. TBD. Okay, I will speak to you all tomorrow as we continue with more of Chapter 17. Hey, we're more than halfway through this thing, so let's head toward the conclusion, which is still kind of a ways out, but we're getting there. We're getting there, and I'll see you here tomorrow to continue with it. Oh my God, what a messy episode. I'll see you all then. Okay, goodbye. Jesus Christ. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.